Hello and welcome. Today we'll dive into the world of pre-employment assessment of a data analyst. In this episode, we're not discussing the typical job interview questions or CV reviews. Instead, we're exploring the kinds of tests and analysis that you might be part of in the screening process of a data analyst role. So we're looking at a data set focused on healthcare activities. We'll simulate the kind of analytical challenges that one might encounter in a job application scenario. You can be sure that it is the kind of test that you might be faced with when applying for a data analyst role. So if you're curious about what the questions look like and how to tackle them, then you're in the right place. That said, let's get started. Welcome back. So we'll dive right into the data set we have to work with today. So it's a hospital admissions data set, healthcare. And one of the first things we do when we are working with a data set is we want to try to understand that data set. So if we look at data set, you can see the different data sets, the different columns and what they represent. So we've got the provider code, provider name, commission name, ethnic category, gender description, activity months, financial year, treatment specialty, cost, activity. Some are explanatory, some are not, and that's why we need to ask questions. One of the questions we would have asked is the description of some of those codes, and we have that provided in this. Don't worry, this particular data set will be provided in the description section of this video. So you can go to the description section and then click on the link to download this data set so you can follow along, so you can practice on your own. So we've got the provider code is simply the national hospital code, the name of the hospital providing the treatment, the name of clinical commissioner is the commissioner's name, the ethnic category is simply the patient's ethnicity, the gender description is patient gender, that's descriptive enough. The activity month is the month of admission. Possible we're expecting to see things like January, February, March, but of course the activity month here is actually looking like code start 2019 05 06 all the way down, and you have that. Good. And we've got the cost, the associated cost, activity count of activity. This information is very useful because you look at activity and we're not sure if activity here means the code, activity 4, activity 14, activity 1. So that information helps us to understand this is a count. So now we understand what each column is. That is the first part of any analysis. We need to understand what does the data mean. Next is we want to make sure that the data is in the right format. So for instance, cost is the currency. I'll just click on cost and I'll change it from general to currency. I can leave it as pounds. 2 decimal places, that's fine. Activity, I can leave it as, because I know it's a count, I can leave it as numbers. But there are 2 decimal places. I don't need those 2 decimal places. I can take it out by using this tab called decreasing decimals. 1, 2, out. If I wanted to increase the decimal places, I'll use this other tab 1, 2, and it goes on. And I can increase decimal place, but I don't want that out. Then our gender, male, female is fine. We have blanks. Yes, we do. We have some that are not specified, but that's fine because you see, in analysis, we need to identify what is our unique identifier, and in this case, the provider code is a unique identifier, and we don't have blanks unique identifier. So every provider has a name. So on to question 1, let's highlight a few interesting points here. What is the total cost? What is the total cost incurred by the Eastwood Women and Children Foundation Trust for emergency medicine in activity month 201904? So what is the total cost incurred? If I go to my data set, and one very good practice is to preserve your master data. So in this case, this is my master data. Preserve it, I'll just create a duplicate by right-clicking here, then move to the end, create a copy, and I'll say OK. I've created a copy and I can call this Q1, question 1. And I am looking at the total cost incurred by Eastwood Women and Children Foundation Trust for emergency medicine activity month. This. So Eastwood Women and Children Trust. One very good practice again is to, before you start filtering, ascending or descending order sorts. I'll sort in ascending order, and the reason is because down the line you might want to copy certain sections. If it hasn't been arranged in either ascending or descending order, there will be spaces in between. We'll see that as we go along. We're looking at Eastwood Women and Children, and we're looking at emergency medicine. I'll sort that as well. I'll take out emergency medicine. And I believe it was said Eastwood Emergency Medicine Activity Month 2019-04. So 2019-04. I'll sort that as well. Let's keep it clean and easy. 2019-04. Enter. Now this is everything we are looking at, and we just did that using the filters. So I'll take all my costs just by highlighting everything, and I can use an Excel formula. And remember that Excel formulas, they begin with equal to, so I can just say equal to sum. I'll take from the start, which is I214, all the way down to the last one, which is I243, close bracket and hit enter. So that is the sum of everything. I did that using an Excel formula. I could decide I don't want to type any formulas. I'll select everything, and down here in the status bar, it has given me the sum. And just by double clicking, that value is saved into the clipboard. Now when I come back to my summary page, I can just hit Ctrl V or Command V and it pastes the information. Don't worry, like I said earlier, this data set, I'll provide a link to where you can download it in the description below. Just follow through till the end. Question 2. How does the cost distribution vary across? Let's take out some key points there. We're looking at the cost distribution, and we're looking at how it varies across different ethnic categories. And we're looking at that for emergency medicine. I'm looking at that in the activity month 201906. Yes, 01906. So we have that. So we know what we're after. So just like before, preserve our master data, duplicate this, move it to the end, say okay, call this question. Do double click and hit soon. For this information, because we are looking at the cost distribution, and we're looking at how it varies across ethnic categories, emergency medicine, and that activity month, we'll use a pivot table. We'll add this to a table, but for now, we'll just select the section that we want to work with. I've selected, and you can use Ctrl Shift and the down arrow button to highlight everything. Go to Insert, and then Pivot Table. Now I've selected the range. I can say I want it to happen in an existing worksheet. Just keep it simple. I would keep it in this same worksheet, and I would select a cell within this current worksheet where the pivot table will be created. So I'll click here, say OK. My pivot table will be created here. A pivot table is created there. And so we have this pivot table, and we're looking at the cost distribution. So we're looking at cost distribution across various ethnic categories. So ethnic category comes into the role, costs comes into the values, and we're looking at, let's look at the question again. Cost distribution, ethnic categories for emergency medicine in this activity month. So I will put the treatment specialty in filters and the activity month in filters as well. So that when I look at the pivot table that has been created, in the pivot table that has been created, I can say, okay, the treatment category I want is just emergency. Was that emergency medicine? We can always go back to the question. Call them emergency medicine, yes. And the activity month is 201906. So we've got the activity month as 201906, like that. So this is the cost distribution. Just to keep it neat, I can just right click here, sort largest to smallest or smallest to largest, down. And just to make it a little more visual, because we are looking at varying data, you might want to make it more visual. So let's use probably a trend line or a stacked line. So I'll select the values I want, insert, and then here I could just pick. Probably I'll just pick either a line or a stacked line. Let's use a line with markers. The reason is so that generally you can just see the markers and then you choose it. You can move your chart around just by clicking and dragging. Move your chart around. You can increase the size of the chart by picking one of the nodes and then expanding it. You can move it around. And just to allow for a better understanding of what you are doing, we can label it appropriately. So rather than total, we can say cost distribution, across ethnic categories. Well, our horizontal and our vertical axis, our X and Y axis, we should label them as well, because just to avoid any misunderstanding of what we are doing. So if we go to designs, from design, go to add chart element, and then the axis title. So our primary horizontal is our X axis, and that we can label as ethnic categories. Ethnic categories. And our y-axis, still on designs, go to our y-axis, which is our primary vertical, as our cost. Yes, cost. Enter. So this is our cost. And off to question number 3. So which treatment specialty has we're looking at question number 3, we're looking at treatment specialty that has the highest average cost. So we're looking at the average cost. We're looking for 2020. Just like before, we will create a copy, move to the end, create a copy. Remember to create a copy. And I'll call this Q3. And a pivot table sounds appropriate for this, because we're looking at this treatment specialty with the highest average cost. in 2020. So come back to question 3. Select from A to J. Shift Control arrow key down. Go to Insert Pivot Table. And in the last question, we actually created a pivot table in an existing worksheet just to explain what this new worksheet will look like. I will select New Worksheet and say OK. So the pivot table has been created in this new worksheet. And then, of course, you can move your tabs across just by clicking and dragging forward or back. I can double click this and say Q3A. Now the pivot we're looking at, look at the question again. It says treatment specialty with the highest average cost in 2020. So I'm looking at treatment specialty. Then I'm looking at cost. And then I'm also looking at the financial year 2020. The financial year 2020. And then I'm not looking at the sum. This time around, I'm looking at average cost. I can change this from sum to average either by double clicking here, click on average, or by right clicking in the values here and say field setting and then say average. So these are my average costs. But of course, my average cost has so many decimal places, it doesn't look too neat. I select everything here and basically say go home and use our decreasing decimal to decimal place end. So the question again is which treatment specialty has the highest average cost in 2020? So I've looked at 2020, I'm looking at the treatment specialties so I can see it clearly. Let's sort highest to lowest. Just right click, sort highest to lowest. I can see is Patrick. Copy. If I come here, I can just paste as the highest cost. Number 4. What is the total number of activities conducted by gender? So we're looking at the total number of activities, that's the sum, conducted by gender for pediatrics in 2020. Good to take note of the key information you're looking for there. So like before, I'll preserve my master data, create a new spreadsheet. Move, say OK, and I can call this Q4. I'm creating this new sheet to help us like have some kind of paper trail to how we go our answers. So we're looking again at total number of activities conducted by gender for pediatrics in 2020. So pivot table, the rescue. Pick this up, A to J, shift control down, insert pivot table, and I'll just do it in the same sheet. Just keep it boom, and I will drop it somewhere here. So drop it to pivot table there and say OK. Now our pivot table is there. We're looking for, once again, we're looking for the total activities conducted by gender, pediatrics 2020. So I'm going to get my gender, and then I'm going to get the sum of activity. And I need pediatrics, and I need it to be in 2020. Is that correct? So we're looking at pediatrics 2020 gender total number of activity. Before, come back here. And then if we look at that, by saying specialty is pediatrics, pediatrics in the year 2020, and this is our vote on our activity. Get it? Please don't forget, if we have any questions as regards, if you'd like me to expatiate on some of these steps, some of the tools I'm making use of here, you just leave that request in the comments. You can talk about it in details in another video. Let's jump right into question 5. So what is the average cost? So like before, let's identify the key elements, the keywords within our question. So what is the average cost? Take that down. Average cost for medical oncology in 2020. So average cost for medical oncology in 2020. Just like before, we have our master data set, and we can just right click, go to move, create a copy, press that it goes to the end, say OK. I can call this Q5. And we're looking at the average cost for medical oncology in 2020. We could actually do this directly without even creating a pivot table. So filter medical oncology, medical oncology, yeah, and then in 2020, and then we want to look at the average cost. This is the cost. That is, so average cost for medical oncology in 2020 without a pivot table, just using filters, we can find the answer of that. So we looked at medical oncology and we've seen average cost 2020. So just by selecting this entire cost, the cost, now that we've filtered out medical oncology and the financial year 2020, we can just look at the costs. Just by selecting this column, we can see that the cost here is 2,165.10. And just like before, by double clicking, it has been saved into the clipboard. And so when I come here, I can just paste the value and it's there, 2,165.10. We could double check our answer by using an Excel formula. Equals average, and select everything from start to the end, close bracket, enter. It should give us the same value. We have a difference in the averages here because if you had followed us in our previous videos, I mentioned that it's very, very important to sort your values either in ascending or descending order, because if you don't do that, when you select, there are spaces in between and it counts. And of course, remember that an average is simply the sum of numbers divided by the number of numbers. In this case, the sum of numbers here is 106,090 divided by the sum of numbers divided by the count of numbers, which is 49. However, this is giving us a different value because there are spaces in between. We did not filter this before our calculation. So let me just delete that and then run through that again. So take out the filters and then ascending order, then we're looking at medical oncology and we're looking at, let's sort this as well, A to Z. We're looking at 2020. Is that correct? Let's look at the question. So we're looking at medical oncology in 2020. So I've pulled out medical oncology 2020, but this time around I sorted it before pulling it out, so that when I now search for the average using the formula average, and I'll take from the first value here, first to the last value there, close bracket and hit enter, you see that I have the same value. So that's something else to look out for, and I explained it in the part 1 of this series, that when you are filtering, it is good practice to ensure that you either arrange your values in ascending or descending order, just so you don't have spaces in between. The spaces we had earlier was why we had different values here and here. That's 2,165.10. On to question 6. How does the cost distribution, and let's pick our keywords here. We're looking at cost distribution and we're looking at how it varies across different ethnic categories for plastic surgery, in 2022. Yes, we had actually done something similar in yes, that was it. Question number 2. How does cost distribution vary across ethnic categories for emergency medicine? This is a little similar, but now instead of activity months, we are looking at the financial year 2022. So let's jump into the question. And like before, let's create a new data set so that we preserve our master data. So move straight down, create a copy, and then we have that, and I can call this Q6. Enter. Like I said earlier on in previous videos, this data set that we're working with, I will make it available for you to download. A link where you can download it will be in the description below. There'll be a link in the description below so you can download this data set. You can play around with it and do your own analysis. Okay, for that test. So Q6, we are looking for the cost distribution across different ethnic categories for plastic surgery in 2020. So one of the first things I want to do is create a pivot table. It makes it easier for us. So select A to J, then Command Shift down or Control Shift down if you're using a Windows. And I can go to Insert, Pivot Table, and just to keep things really tidy for us, I will just keep it in the existing worksheet, this same worksheet I'm working with, and I'll just select a cell within this worksheet to add my pivot table. So I'll select this cell, click OK. Now we're looking at cost distribution across various ethnic categories. So ethnic categories come roles, and take forward a little so you see that. So ethnic categories come to roles, then cost comes into values, and we are looking at treatment specialty in filters and also financial year in filters. For the treatment specialty, we are looking at plastic surgery in 2022. Question 6. So I'll just look at plastic surgery. That's plastic surgery. Take out the select all. Plastic surgery in 2022. Just 2022. So now I'm looking at the cost distribution for plastic surgery in 2022. Now some of these values have 4 decimal places. I'm not a fan of things that are just all over the place, so you can reduce this to probably about 2 decimal places. Select all and reduce the decimal places to 2 decimal places maximum. That's our sum of cost. So the question once again is, how does the cost distribution vary across different ethnic categories? Plastic surgery, we have our answer. That's plastic surgery 2022 cost. Just keeping it untidy like before, just right click here, sort and say largest to smallest. We have that. And we can just create a trend line. We used a trend line in the previous part, the first part of this. Let's see if we can use something else. Let's set a bar chart of use a, it's going to represent a tab. Now I think it will still help us to use a trend chart would actually, trend lines will actually look better. Trend lines will look a lot better. So you can see the trend. So you can see, just like before, we can edit our charts just to give it more meaning. So total becomes cost variation. So cost variation across ethnic categories. Yes? Cost variation across ethnic categories. And then on our X and our Y axis, to edit that, just go into design, and we can change our axis type to our primary horizontal. Remember, horizontal is your X axis. Our primary horizontal, we can call this ethnic categories. And on our Y axis, which are our vertical, we can call that our vertical is our cost. Just include it as cost. So this is how the cost varies across ethnic categories. Yeah. On to question 7. Question 7. What is the total cost incurred by meal? So we are looking again at total cost. Total cost incurred by meals for clinical hematology in 2022. So, just like before, let's preserve our master data, create a copy, move, create a copy, allow this to go to the end, and we'll call this Q7. So, some of the things we are looking at here, let's consider if we need to create a pivot table, we can use filters. Total cost, meals, clinical hematology in 2022. Yes, we can use filters, quickly filters for this. Q7, just like before, remember, let us arrange in ascending or descending order. Then we'll pick out just the male. Pick out females, so I left it just count not specified because we just want male. And then we're looking at clinical ascending order again. We're looking at clinical hematology, and then we're looking at what year was that? 2022. We're looking at 2022. Now the question is to find our, no, look at that. Let me take out this filter, and that's because we didn't sort it or taking it out, just to avoid error. And the question is to find the total cost incurred by meals for clinical hematology in 2022. So the total cost is now this value, the entire value, and here it's 79,503. Double click. Just like before, if I wanted to use an Excel formula, I'll just go equal to sum, and the sum of everything here, close bracket and click. And as you can tell, it's the same, 79,503. So that is the total cost incurred by meals for clinical hematology. That said, let's jump into question number 8. So, which gender has the highest total cost for pediatric surgery? So, pediatric surgery, which gender? So, let's pick out. So, we're looking at gender. That's the main highest total cost as that. Pediatric surgery, that's that. Now, this question looks like something we have to solve using the pivot table. So, like before, right click, move a copy, take it to the end. This is so that we can preserve our master data set. Call this Q8. Enter. And just like before, when creating a pivot table, select A to J, Command Shift, arrow key down, insert pivot table, and I'm going to create it in this same sheet. And I say OK here. So the pivot will be created there. And we are looking again. Let's look at the question again. It says we should look at gender with the highest total cost for pediatric surgery. So we're looking at total cost. We're looking at gender. We're we're looking at total costs. And the treatment specialty is pediatric surgeries. I'll select. Then we're looking at pediatric. So we're looking at gender with the highest total cost. So this is the sum of costs for the art. And then I don't like the fact that we have 3 decimal places here, 2 decimal places. Let's just make everything 2 decimal places. Right? Or, and then if I go back to home, just decrease it to 1. That's it. So which gender has the highest cost? Sort it, highest to smallest. So we can tell straight away that it's the male. Pediatrics, male. Okay, let's come to the question. We're looking at gender with the highest total cost for pediatric surgery. So this is pediatric surgery, not pediatric. Let's go back there. Pediatric surgery. Pediatric surgery, not pediatric. Choose that, and it's still male. Yeah, so that's 900. That's 932,907. So look at that, and that is well, the question is the gender. So if that is what we're looking for, the answer is male. So it's still male. Yes. Then how does the cost distribution vary? We're looking at cost distribution again. Cost distribution vary across different ethnic categories. Yeah. For emergency medicine. Yeah. Conducted by the Eastwood and Stonebridge. That's longer. So it's more than some of the ones we did in the past. So let's create that. Just like before, let's just make a copy, take it to the end, create a copy, call this Q9. And then Q9, we're saying that we're looking at how the cost. Let's create a pivot table for this straight up. So A to J, Control Shift down, and insert pivot table in existing worksheet. Just keep it tidy. I can just paste it here, say OK. And then the question once again is, how does the cost distribution vary across different ethnic groups? We're looking at ethnic groups and cost, emergency medicine, and that. So let's bring in ethnic groups to role, cost to values, and then we're looking at the treatment specialty, and we're looking at the commission name. Yeah. So was that treatment specialty is emergency medicine, Eastwood and Stonebridge. So let's check. Commission is Eastwood and Stonebridge, ECG, and then this is emergency medicine, and then we're looking at the cost, how the cost varies. Again, I have 4 decimal places. I don't want that, so let's just take this down to 2 decimal places, just like that. And then now let's sort it largest to smallest, just to keep it neat. And then we can just insert a trend line. Let's insert a trend line. So, and just like before, we can style it a little, and then this is cost variation across various ethnic categories. Cost variation across different ethnic categories. And then remember, go to design, and then take our axis title. The primary horizontal is our x-axis, and then we can call that ethnic categories. And our y-axis is our vertical, and that is our cost. So we'll do that. And that is question 9. Let's look at question 10 quickly. What is the total cost incurred so we're looking at total cost again. We're looking at females for respiratory medicine in 2020. Now this looks like something we can analyze using filter. So just right click again. Let's create move copy. Let's call this question and move to end. I'll call this Q10. Like I said, I'm creating this tab just so we have a paper trail on how we came across our answers. You don't need to create tabs. Well, just a paper trail. So the question again is total cost incurred by females, respiratory medicine 2020. So just like before, to avoid errors, let's filter it dead and let's just take out females, and then let's filter specialty A to Z and look at respiratory medicine, and then let's filter financial year A to Z. Just pick out 2020. Is that all? So we're looking at females, respiratory medicine. Q10. We can get our value straight off. Just by, if you click on column I, you will see the total cost here. That's for 4,945. To double check, we can use an Excel formula. So equal to sum from here to here, close your bracket, hit enter, 44,945 or 32. Okay. Now let's drop our answers there. So total cost tax, but 4,945 for 3. We've got 3 more questions to go. We'll dive right into question 11. So question 11 says, please provide a pivot table and a trend chart showing cost of admission. So like before, let's pick out, so we are creating a pivot table. So this is needed. A trend chart showing cost of admission by month. Cost of admission by month. We're looking at cost of admission by month for 2020. So now they want us to create a pivot table. So right click, just like before, we'll save our master data set. Go to the end, create a copy, say OK, and we'll name this. Double click, say Q11. Now create a pivot table from A to I, A to J. Command Shift down. Go to insert pivot table. I'm going to put it in this same worksheet. ID. Say OK. And I want to bring in, we're looking at, what are we looking at here? Question is pivot table, that's what we're doing, and a trend chart. Trend chart is something else that they want us to do, which we've done in our previous questions. Just now it's a question. Doing cost of admission by month for 2020. That's fairly straightforward. So cost of admission by month. So month, activity month, then cost of admission by month, and then financial year comes to filter, and financial year is just 2020, right? That 2020 or 2022, 2020. Good. So this is what we've been asked to do. Looks good. Just keep it neat. Some have 3 decimal places, doesn't look good. So let's change this. So everything has just 2 decimal places. Let's see. Let's put 2 decimal places for everything. So we have that, and a trend chart. So select all, go back to insert, and then we can choose a trend line. So it's a stacked, 100% stacked line with marker. Let's do a stacked line. And just like before, we can increase by picking up the diagonals. And we can now make it more understandable by giving it some. So this is cost of admission by month. Yeah, so for that cost of admission, we'll click cost of admission by month. And now we can let them know what's our x-axis and what's our y-axis by going to design. And from design, we go to add chart element, axis title. Primary horizontal is our activity month. And our y-axis is our cost. That's our primary vertical, our cost. Done. On to the next. Question number 12. So we're to find out which treatment specialty. So we're looking at the treatment specialty that has the highest cost. So highest cost, we're looking at highest cost across both financial years. So this looks like something that we would solve using a pivot table. So right click, move, copy, go to the end, make a copy, and we'll call this Q12, question 12. Let's create a pivot table for that. The pivot table, it's J, command shift down, insert, pivot table, and I'll leave it in the existing worksheet. Let's keep it simpler. Drop that there and stay OK. So we're looking at treatment specialty that has the highest cost across both financial year. Basic. So that's all. I'm using all costs. So which has the highest cost? Like before, I like to just keep this neat, 2 decimal places, just so we are all on the same page. Get out if need. Yeah, 2 decimal places there. Then let me just right click, sort largest to smallest. The question is which treatment specialty has the highest cost across both financial years. The answer is pediatrics. And the last question in this particular series, question 13. Based on the above treatment specialty, that's based on pediatrics, what is the total cost for this? What's the total cost for this at Eastwood Women and Children Foundation Trust in 2020? We could use the same question 13, just duplicate that because it's already set up for it. Right click, move, the end, create a copy, and call this Q13. And now we're just going to add 2 things there. So in the question it says, we're looking at based on the above treatment specialty, which we now know is pediatrics. Yeah. What is the total cost? We're now looking at the total cost. As we're looking at pediatrics, total cost in Eastwood Women and Children Foundation Trust in 2020. Back to question 13. We are going to have specialties come up because now we are going to look at just the pediatrics. And we're not looking at financial year now, so financial year can go, remove, but we are looking at the what was it called? Eastwood Women and Children Foundation Trust. Okay, we actually need financial year. Eastwood Women and Children Trust comes here as well. We are looking at financial year 2020. We are looking at Eastwood Women and Children Trust. And the question is, based on the above treatment specialty, that's pediatrics, what's the total cost at Eastwood Women and Children Foundation in 2020? The answer is this. Okay. and paste here. 3 million, and put that's 3676. This is currency, so let's see if we can just make it look more like currency. So 3,606,350. So there you have it. This is the kind of technical interview you can expect to be faced with when applying for a data analyst role. Feel free to go over this and any of the other videos in this series. And if you would like us to cover any concept that has been discussed, kindly leave a comment below. If you found this content useful, consider subscribing if you haven't, so you can get notified when new videos drop. You should also consider liking and sharing this video. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.